Hey, brother Tim.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good.
Good. Dr. Arnold, how are you, sir?
Hey, fine. How are you doing? Good.
Great.
I just got back from my 11-mile walk.
11 miles, man.
Yeah, I walked from 51st Street down to Roosevelt Road and back with Dr. Terry Mason.
Wow. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so our plan is, we've been doing it progressively.
Mm-hmm.
And I walk down to Navy Pier, sit down, get something to eat, look at the birds, and then come back.
That sounds beautiful. How was the weather?
Oh, it was kind of chilly today, a little cool on the cooler side. But when you're walking, you get warmer, so it evened out a little bit. But the last few times, like the first time we walked to 47th Street, then we walked to 50, I'm sorry, 59th first and then 47th.
Mm-hmm.
Walked to 22nd Street, and then we walked down to I'm sorry, 31st Street, then 22nd, and then down to Roosevelt Road this time. So it's about 5 walks we did.
Wow, that is awesome.
Yeah. So about at least once a week, we'll take that walk.
That is very inspiring. I was just talking to my wife saying that, we definitely have got to get out. We have not started our walking season. So
right. Hey, someone had to get in. Let me see if this is
okay. And Tim, I really don't want to be on at all. As soon as it, comes time for, you and, you and the panelists, the barbers.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, I don't, I definitely don't want to be on, at all. I want to be all the way out the way.
No problem, no problem. Excuse me, I just got to get a couple pieces of
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey,
Good.
Dr. Walker.
I was just telling him I did an 11-mile walk today with Terry Mason.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You're going to go straight to sleep right after this, huh?
Oh, I'm going to be like knocked out. And tomorrow morning, if you need some lumber for your house, I may be as stiff as a piece of wood.
I need to join your walk.
Oh yeah, because we did, this is a 5th one, but we've been progressively going out. Like we walked down from 51st to Roosevelt Road this time. But when you're walking in those paths, it's not a straight line. So you're actually going, east and west. So I told him, I think we're walking further than we think.
Ray, how was your travel?
It's been lovely. Miami is kind of lack there of sun as of right now. It's kind of rainy, but we're here. The wife is here. We're safe, and I'm not in the doghouse just yet. So it's
praise God. There you go. That is very important, sir. That's very important.
Dr. Walker, the panelists I have are you, Dr. Arnold, and the 2 barbers. Was there supposed to be anybody else?
No, it's just Ray and Greg.
Okay.
Helping Amy.
All right. I know it was more people on the email list. I didn't know if they were supposed to be panelists also.
No. This is it.
Okay.
Just excuse me for a second. I'm just gonna step away real quick.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm gonna step away for a minute.
Hey Ray, please make sure I don't see too much outside your window because I'm gonna be sitting here.
I did. I tried to limit that box there to for everyone to stay focused. Yeah, we're trades. So. Thank you. Oh man, I wish I could give you a better view, but like I said, it's a little rainy right now.
Oh yeah, okay.
On the beach.
I heard they had a volcano down. They was just talking about that on CNN down in St. Vincent.
Yeah, I saw that. It's been dormant for decades too.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. I think now what they're worried about is when it rains and that water coming through the ash clouds now. I think that's what they're nervous about.
Yeah, that turns it into sulfuric acid.
Yeah.
You don't breathe that stuff in. Yeah.
You know, Doc, I was telling some of my clients, you know, like I have a military background, and when we were talking about the vaccine, I said, look, I have about 12, 14 vaccines in me right now, and majority of those weren't volunteered.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, Roland told.
Right.
Yeah, because I was, you know, for the last, you know, when I was doing the Zooms, I would tell people, you know, they would give you 3 in one arm, 2 in the other arm, and give you a card and
keep
say,
on going.
Card if you don't want them again.
Right. Right. Just go get them again.
Yeah, you see people
Oh man. Yeah, I remember the briefing for anthrax. I was like, wait, how many needles? How many times?
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Wait, how many? Okay, all right.
They even gave us that smallpox, you know, when we were, and I said, you know, there's multiple sticks. And I said,
yep.
Like, I thought that was eradicated. They said, I don't care. It's on the record. You're getting it.
Still getting it. Oh man, smallpox. That was an interesting one. That definitely was.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Oh, yeah, that one was interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I told the nurse, say, go right ahead. You can get right through it. You want
yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so.
Yeah. You know, but that, you know, I'm glad, I'm grateful I went through that experience, you know, to learn about that stuff. And
absolutely. Absolutely. Especially, I think my eyes were open with the smallpox and during Ebola, and, you know, just going through it during that time. It gave me a wealth of knowledge to just an understanding. So it kind of helps out being a barbershop leader in its time.
Yeah, yeah. But where are you? Which branch were you in?
Air Force.
Air Force. Okay, yeah. Because I have a couple of good friends in the Air Force. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And then a few people from the Navy. And then you know, I know some people from Marines too.
Yep. Oh man, good times. Wouldn't trade them for nothing.
Oh no. Yeah, that's.
And then we were security forces for the Air Force.
Oh, so, security force. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Air Force.
You know, we were definitely getting vaccinated.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I was in the Army. I did the mechanized infantry and the flight surgeon on Black Hawk helicopters, and
oh man,
you know, going into that stuff, and
it's amazing.
But it was, you know, I you know, the experiences you see and things you see, and it's like, forget it, you know.
Yeah, right.
Nowhere else in the world.
Nowhere else. That's why our movies are so good, because you know, art imitates life. So.
Oh yeah. Where are you located for your shop?
So I have 2 that are in Rockford, Illinois, on Alpine and Harrison, and then another on Spring Creek, which is called The Experience. And then my wife's is in Schaumburg. So she travels to Schaumburg on her days. And then I pretty much oversee the Rockford locations.
All right.
So yeah, we're in the state line.
Oh yeah.
And then Greg and I both were educators for the school that he currently works for. I was there a few years before Greg, actually, when he moved into there. So we have we all know each other. It's a great experience being able to talk about it as educators in the barbering community.
Oh, yeah.
And Greg also is a shop owner too. So, you know, we you know, behind the scenes, he and I talk a lot all the time about, you know, these situations.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You
yeah. Mm. We're gonna be vaccinating kids soon, so that's coming up.
I thought I saw something 12 to 15 or
Yeah, they did a study on people 12 to 15, but it looks like it's holding up. And it looks like people who are in that age range are going to be, I think it was like 100%, they were saying.
Sorry about that. My computer just, I just transitioned to my phone. Mark, are you there?
Yeah.
I'm gonna send you these slides as backup, just in case my computer back on. And that way you can share your screen and I can just say, move the slide to the next slide, just in case. Does that make sense?
Who was sharing? I mean, who are you sending them to?
I'll send them to you and Mark.
Okay, I didn't hear you got broke up when you said someone's name. I didn't hear.
Yeah, I'm for some reason my internet just went out on my computer, so I'm going to see if I can get it back. But I can use this phone for.
You're on the phone now. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds good. I have never shared my screen on Zoom before, so
It's not that hard. I think there's a thing on the bottom that says screen thing that says
Yeah,
share.
just keep the files open, open up the files, and that way when you get ready to share it, you just click what file you want to open. So they got to already be open on your computer.
got it. All right.
I'll send them to you too, Damon.
Oh, okay.
I am really excited about this. I hope we get a good turnout. I have sent it to, you know, I've put it out on all of my networks just, you know, before, but, you know, but here within the last 30 minutes as well. So hopeful for a good turnout. But the great thing is that it is going to be recorded. So.
Okay, yeah. So.
Okay, my computer's back, but just in case, I'll just keep this phone on.
Sure. And I just got the documents. So I'm going to open them up. All right. All right. Sounds good. What's up, Mr. Hanson?
How you doing, Mark? How you doing?
Good, good, sir.
Just resetting my Facebook Live, and then we can go ahead and get started.
Okay.
All right. something happened. Okay, we're on. Now I got to get the Zoom started. Greetings, everybody. We're about to get started with our community leadership program. It's our webinar with community barbers talking about the COVID vaccine is Black leaders in the field of public health, communicable disease, and behavioral health, and community barber leaders. This webinar is intended to assist our community members and with developing a science-informed perspective on the COVID-19 coronavirus vaccine, and will address the history of vaccines in the Black community, common myths about the coronavirus vaccine, and the pros and cons of taking the vaccine. Webinar participants will receive a clear, actionable vaccine recommendations from the panel of experts that are considered of our community history and common pre-existing conditions. A follow-up webinar will be completed that will serve as a call to action where curriculum and breakout groups will be implemented. A goal of 25 per event. A small group of 5 participants will walk through the pamphlets. Our panelists today are Dr. Garth Walker. He's a Deputy Director for the Illinois Department of Public Health, Assistant Professor in Emergency Medicine at Northwestern Feinberg School of Medicine. Dr. Damon Arnold. He has a list of other titles. Director at the Adjunct Professor, University of the College of Illinois of Medicine and School of Public Health, and former director of the Illinois Department of Public Health. Gregory Hansen, also known as G Money, is a barber in the community of Rockford, owner of Locks, Shops, and Cuts. Also a teacher or educator at Chicosa University. And Ray Richmond is a local owner of Synergy Salon Group, Lux Barbershop, and the Lux, soon to come Lux Academy of Salon and Barber School. Thank you, gentlemen. Welcome, moderators. Welcome, gentlemen panelists. Dr. Arnold, we'll start with you.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And, I was talking to Dr. Walker about this, and, my wife thinks I'm, go back to the cave times, and she's been trying to bring me up. So I know a little bit about the past history. And one of the things that I ran across is that, the barbershop actually used to be called barber surgeons, because you had sharp instruments. And that pole that's outside, that pole has, red on it, and that means for blood, right? They were doing bloodletting. And that white means bandages, how they used to, cover the wounds up. But the barber chair was for dentistry. They used to extract teeth. They used to set bones. They used to take care of wounds. And so that's why, that barber chair became what the dentists use. Looks very similar to a barber chair. And because you had, sharp instruments you were using. So the barbers really play a central role. When the blue came in, it was because of the, the color of the vein. They thought it was blue for blood, or the blue for the American flag, but that's a US thing. And the actual pole itself was a stick that the person would hold on to when they were, getting their blood drawn, So it was like, biting a bullet, right? But they'll hold it in their hand. So you have a really long history of being involved with medicine, going back some time. And so I'm just so really pleased that, you are here, and that Dr. Walker invited me and that I am able to participate in this whole thing. So I feel that we'll talk about this vaccination and why it's so important, especially for our communities that have been disparately impacted, by COVID-19, and hope to, to bring some things that I have that I've learned myself that may be able to help other people make the right decision. And I'll turn it over, you can turn it over to the next person.
No problem. One thing I forgot to do, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Tim Neighbors, Winnebago County board member and the worship master for Welcome Star. I mean, not Welcome Star, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Master Builders Masonic Lodge.
Oh, yeah.
Now we'll turn you over to Dr. Walker with an introduction.
Thanks, Tim. And I just want to highlight how important this is, as well as this partnership. From the public health perspective, barbers have served as incredible public health communicators. In some of our highest levels of studies, randomized controlled trials is kind of the gold standard. There have been several studies that have demonstrated just how effective that partnership has been, particularly in some of our best journals, JAMA, where they have seen this partnership in terms of public health communication to address blood pressure, as well as just health promotion in general, as instrumental. So today, when we are here today talking about COVID-19 and how to spread the message, how to spread high yield information, as well as promote the importance of taking the vaccine and juxtapose that with our department and our ambassadors program, this is just a phenomenal opportunity. And just from myself, having the perspective of seeing patients at the climax of COVID-19, having those very difficult conversations with families, as well as seeing how COVID has affected the Black community from a social, economic, as well as a health perspective. This conversation couldn't have been more timely. So thank you. Thank you for the leaders that have joined our panel and helping support IDPH in terms of helping spread this message. I'll stop there and I'll pass it to Ray.
All right, thank you, Dr. Walker. Question for the barbers. What are some of the common questions regarding COVID are you seeing in the barber shop? We'll go ahead and start with Mr. Richmond.
Perfect. Hey, Tim. Gentlemen, thank you so much for this opportunity. I appreciate it wholeheartedly. Hearing the docs talk about the history of barbering, I mean, I'm sure Gregory can appreciate this too. That was straight out of chapter 2. So, Colonel, I appreciate that. That hit hard home there that you started speaking on the colors and representation of the barber pole. Again, I just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity, and it's an honor to be amongst all of you gentlemen. But to answer your question, Tim, there's two main things that I've noticed from the barbershop and discussions, and it's one of it did stem from a little bit of COVID vaccine coming during a time of heightened misinformation from media and leadership. So understanding what to believe on or even receiving it has been a mass discussion. And then the other part was just understanding the risks and choosing which vaccine. We had many guys, we got into countless of talks just about like, man, I don't know which one to choose or weighing out the options and such. And those are some of the biggest things, but as a barber at heart, but and an educator, at heart, trying to get the information out. It isn't my job to change their mind. It's our job to just kind of be empathetic and provide resources as to where people can go. And I just, truly try to just be able to listen and give resources. And when it gets, kind of loud and wild in the barbershop on certain discussions, when it gets personal to me on this topic, I say, look, I was in the military. I got voluntold vaccines inside of me, and this one is going to just add right to it. So I'm okay about it. So that's my personal thought pattern on the situation of what we've seen, Tim. And it's truly just a matter of, guys can come in, just talk freely and throw something against the wall and wait for another person to talk about it. And those are the two main points that I've seen.
Mr. Hanser, what are some of the things or questions that some of your clients or people in the barbershop come, display with you, or some of the conversations you have?
Well, some of the conversations I seem to have is pretty much like Mr. Rich and like Mr. Ray would say, like, most people just are sort of adverse a little bit just with us as Blacks in this community, you know what I mean? Just seeing the history of vaccines, like Mr. Ray just said, like, he was in the military, that I'm going to take the vaccine, but you got a lot that's on the wall, like, I don't know if I want to take the vaccine. I don't know if it's right for me. I don't know if they're going to trick us, you know what I mean? So it's a lot of, whether they myths or truths, you know what I mean? It's a lot of innuendos that got us that feel like, I don't know if I want to take the vaccine. But then I got a lot of my older clients that just automatically, they know they're taking the vaccine. Like, they don't even got to think about it. But it's really like the 30 and under, they're like, I'm still on the wall. Maybe I don't need it. As long as all the older people get it, I don't got to get it. You know what I mean? So it's just, they need to know the do's and the don'ts, the rights and the wrongs. You know what I mean? They need more information.
So either one of you, Greg or Ray, how do you see your role in addressing the situation? Well, what are some of your responses, or what do you do to help them make a good decision, or are they looking to you to make a good decision, help them make this decision for them?
Yeah, that's a good point. It's truly a little bit of those soft skills that we have to learn through experience. Making light of a situation, being able to joke about it, and kind of chill the room of any heightened conversations. The main thing that what we use in barbershops is the ability to just throw jabs at each other about it, to lighten the seriousness of it, so that we can break the ice and even start to begin to talk about it. Working and being underneath the Illinois Department of Health and Professional Regulation, we've been blessed with recognition of maybe barbers and cosmetologists should start to look for signs of domestic violence, or talk about mental health amongst their clients, because the docs are starting to know and realize that people are talking to us a little bit more than they are their doctors. I mean, I know some guys, I've seen them way more than they've seen their doctor. We get standing appointments every 2 weeks. And, we're sitting there and we're discussing for 30 minutes to maybe an hour about every subject underneath the sun every 2 weeks. And whereas, some gentlemen may only see their doctor once a year, and at a 10 to 15 minute, conversation at that. So in the times that we talk, that we have these opportunities, it's mostly just about being empathetic, not sympathetic, not sympathetic to them, but empathetic, understanding that I get mental health because it's my health too, and just our personal health. So being empathetic on the situation and understanding is really what kind of breaks through to people of options and resources and just communicating, basically.
So Dr. Walker, was there anything that caught your attention about what they said, that some of the points that they stated that you want to address?
No, absolutely. I think it's that type of partnership that helps inform what are some of the issues that we want to address from the public health perspective. How do we reorient our interventions? And part of that is ensuring that we can have people who are great public health messengers or potential for public health messengers partner with individuals who can help give that information, whether it be from a public health perspective, a physician's perspective, but in partnership. So they just mentioned what are some of the myths and risk. And some of the myths that we bring up that we hear a lot all the time is, for example, a microchip, or if there is intent for the vaccine not to be as safe for our community. And what we know from the public health perspective, and Dr. Arnold and I have been talking at length about, is there have been so many advocates looking at the literature around the vaccine. For example, National Medical Association, who's vetted a lot of the research and making sure that our community is represented in those studies, and that the vaccine is effective in protecting our community. That information, we can partner with barbers to help disseminate that information within their communities. Dr. Arnold, do you have anything to add on?
I think that was really very, very good. You know, and the one thing is that we have to come, you know, up to modern times, because we start talking about things like science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. Going back, I know, even with those in the Masonic order, they know the history of where science began, and it began in Africa. It began in Egypt, and the first ventilator was made in 1000 AD, and we were practicing variolation, which is a form of inoculation in Africa for generations. It was 1000 years ago in China, and it was even before that, they believe, in Africa, that they were taking smallpox and impregnating children with a piece of metal to get them immunized, and they knew that would protect them against getting the smallpox itself. And they actually did that for snake venom, with the snake heads, and they actually vaccinated kids so that if they got bitten by a snake, they wouldn't die. And so we have been practicing that stuff. And in 1700, we had Onesimus, who was a slave, who taught his preacher, slave master owner, it was Cotton Mather, how to do variolation. And that was right before the Revolutionary War. So we don't even know what kind of impact that knowledge that came from Africa had on the formation of this country and us being here. So that there's a lot of the science and the history that we have been a part of. And you were sort of alluding to some of the things that, with the mishaps like the Tuskegee study and, things that were done to people who were, for obstetrics and gynecology. The father of that actually did, uncontrolled studies on women without anesthesia who were slaves, right? So we have a history of that, but we are actually moving forward from that. And as Dr. Walker was saying about the microchips, some people were saying that there may be a microchip in the vaccine that, that will, that allows people to track me. And what I tell people is get rid of your cell phone and get rid of your credit card, because they already know where you are. so don't even go there with the microchip thing. But this is a very well-studied vaccine. And then I'll leave it there so we can go on, with the questions. I don't want to, keep some of those points, but we're here to really talk about what is real about the science behind this.
So, Greg, I know we discussed that some of your people in the barbershop are really concerned. I just want you to highlight some of those concerns on why they won't get it, or why they think that it's not good for us to get.
Well, like Dr. Damon was just saying, we've just got so many misconceptions, or so many times where you feel like it may have been government based or something, that they've did something to the Black community. So you've got a lot of people just gonna stand on the fence. And I know I had a friend where you feel like the media, like what Mr. Ray was saying, like when the COVID hit, like it was almost like they didn't care about it. And then next thing you know, it hit, and now it was like a fear tactic. Like it seemed like they use it as like fear. You got to go do this. You got to go do this. But you got so many people like, man, I feel like they're just trying to lead us right into something else. So you can understand sometimes like how you feel like, I don't know. I don't trust it either because I'm telling them the same thing. Like, I've got a grandmother that's 90 years old, and she's telling us straight out the gate, you can't come see me unless you done took that vaccine. And I'm thinking like, man, I want to go see my granny, but
Right.
dang, do I want to go get this vaccine?
Right.
So, you know what I mean? So I done watched my mom take it, my brother take it, my granny take it, but I know I still haven't took it yet, but it's like, you got to get on board or we might get left behind. And I know I got a child on the way and I don't want that for my child. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's so many things that we worry, but at the same time, it's like, you just on the fence.
So, Dr. Arnold, I got a question from someone. It says, my son is 27 and lost his spleen 9 years ago and appendix. Should he attempt to get the vaccine?
Oh, yeah, that is not an indication not to get it. Actually, you know, when you take the spleen out, that the spleen, what it does is it saves blood and it's part of the immune system, you know. But you know, people who are, you know, who have chronic medical conditions like asthma, we know Inglewood has 6 times the national average. People who have chronic obstructive pulmonary disease from smoking a lot, people with, you know, other medical conditions like hypertension and diabetes. Those are the people who really should get vaccinated. Those people who are, you know, suppressed. But there is nothing with us taking out the spleen and splenectomy, and appendectomy is taking out a piece of the intestines that's not even working well. That has no real function in the body. So getting it is absolutely not what we call a contraindication to getting vaccinated. You should absolutely get vaccinated.
Great, thank you, Dr. Damon. Dr. Walker, I got a question. So why is it necessary for a person to get vaccinated if they already had COVID and had never taken a flu shot, even though it's a different virus?
Well, the reason for a person that has gotten COVID to get the vaccine is twofold. One is that we have seen instances of reinfection. So the fact that that has already happened gives us an incentive to make sure that those individuals should definitely get vaccinated. But the other part is the role of variants. What a variant is just a slight shift in the structure of the virus, which could make it more difficult for the vaccines that are currently available to fight that virus. So the longer that people are not vaccinated, the more likely a variant could exist that could be unresponsive to any of the current vaccines available. And so we need to make sure that every single person is vaccinated, even if they have had COVID before, because what we do know is that the current vaccines available are currently effective against all the variants. But the time that one variant becomes unresponsive to the current vaccines, we could potentially restart this all over again. So we need to make sure that we're getting people who have not been vaccinated incentivized to be vaccinated. So when somebody's sitting in your barber shop and there might be a little bit of apprehension, just sharing some of the information that you're hearing today and disseminating and spreading that word to your community can help save so many individuals.
So with that being said, one of the questions that the barbers had already stated is another question that I have here. Either doctor can answer. It said, can you simplify the science behind the Moderna versus the Pfizer versus the Johnson & Johnson vaccine? And should there be any preferences? So I don't know which one wants to take it. It's up to either one.
Can we take that, Dr. Walker? And then I'll let you add. Okay, yeah, well, you know, the thing about it is that this technology for the vaccine, the way they're making it now has been around for over 20 years. And they used it for MERS, they used it for the first SARS, they used it for Ebola during President Obama's administration, and it actually contained, you know, the Ebola, outbreak. It was really very effective. And so what some people are saying that this vaccine was created so quickly because it was, Operation Warp Speed, which should never have been used, that term. We had space cadets using that term, so I'm not going to go any further than that. But it wasn't warp speed. We had about they eliminated about 2 to 3 years in the production of a vaccine, because what they did was they got rid of all the administrative roadblocks. For the first time, this is the most scrutinized vaccine ever made in the history of the world. You had every country on board, communicating with each other, sharing the science, going back and forth. This vaccine was made in the appropriate amount of time scientifically. So you have phase trials, phase 1, 2, and 3 for each of the vaccines. Now, the Pfizer and the Moderna were in a different time frame, off by about 2 to 3 months in their trials with respect to Johnson & Johnson. So when they did all 3 phase trials, they had adequate numbers of African Americans in the studies, as Dr. Walker was alluding to. They made sure they had about 40 to 60,000 participants in the study, depending on which one you were looking at. Now we've had over 24 million people vaccinated as of the January. Now we're up to almost 200 million doses being delivered. And we have seen very little in the way of adverse events or side effects. And those have been well contained. No one has died so far from receiving the vaccine. So we're looking at a vaccine that's really 94 to 95% effective for Pfizer and Moderna. And then we're looking at about 84% for the Johnson & Johnson. Now, the Johnson & Johnson was tried out in South Africa and in Brazil, whereas the Pfizer and the Moderna were pretty much US and European studies. So those variants that Dr. Walker was talking about may have affected how efficacious that vaccine is for the Johnson & Johnson. But the main thing is that those people who have been fully immunized with Moderna and with Pfizer or with Johnson & Johnson have not been hospitalized or ended up in an intensive care unit or died from COVID-19. So there's still a small chance you can get COVID-19, but usually it's mild to moderate. So it's just like getting a cold rather than you ending up in an intensive care unit. And I'll turn it over to Dr. Walker, to add some more comments.
No, Dr. Arnold, you covered a lot of it. But if I was to add one thing, if you have access to either of these vaccines, just get it. Neither one can do the job. There are some pros. For example, Johnson & Johnson is just a one-shot vaccine, and from our perspective, that could be helpful for populations that may be hard to follow up with, people that we are not sure will be able to get to that second dose. But if you take Pfizer or Moderna, there's a couple of important points. One is if you get a Pfizer the first time, make sure you get the Pfizer the second time, right? Because the studies investigate the efficacy of getting the same vaccines twice. The other part is about the efficacy of this is that it helps in 3 different ways. One is that it reduces your chances of getting COVID. That's the obvious one. The other one is that it reduces your chances of spreading that to your community. That's the part where, because the viral load is so much lower, the likelihood of you passing that around in your community is much lower as well. We still recommend that you do this in the context of masking, washing your hands, and distancing. And then the last point is exactly what Dr. Arnold just mentioned. Say you are a high-risk individual, right? End-stage renal disease, populations where we've seen who have had COVID have a 10 times more likelihood of passing away compared to a healthy individual. If you get vaccinated, instead of being admitted or maybe going to the ICU, maybe you just might have some fevers or chills, or maybe you just might not need to go into the hospital at all. Those are the things that we notice. And from an emergency physician perspective, when I'm thinking about resources and how many people are in our ICUs or that are admitted, makes my job a lot easier to be able to treat those emergencies, such as heart failure, stroke, when our hospital is not as full with patients who are very sick from COVID. So by partnering with you guys and being able to continue to spread that message and get more people vaccinated, you're not just helping your community, you're helping your local hospital, you're helping physicians, and you're helping people stay open and increase the likelihood that we'll be able to make sure that our children can stay in schools and our businesses can stay open as well.
Yeah, Tim, can I mention one other thing? You know, I've received the, the vaccine. So, you know, you have the Moderna. So I did the Moderna vaccine. So when I had my first dose, I went home, had a little bit of swelling and some soreness in my, my left shoulder. And that lasted a very short period of time. Actually, I woke up the next day and didn't have anything. It was just like a minor thing that sort of passed through. And when I had the second shot, I had a lot of pain in my right shoulder. And that's because I was running for a Zoom meeting and hit my shoulder on the wall. But the shoulder I had the shot and I had no problem. But it was my right shoulder that was killing me. And I said, so I tell that story because, I had very minimal or no really side effects with it. But I know that I got a sense of relief because I felt like I had done something to put my body armor on, something to protect me, from something that could potentially kill me and take me out the picture from my wife and, family. So I just said, this is something I had to do. And I know Dr. Walker also got vaccinated. He maybe can tell his story too.
Yeah, I've been vaccinated for several months now. And the first shot, I had no symptoms, but the second shot, I did take a half day the following day. The side effects are fevers, chills, and I had those. But the day after that, I was back at it. I was going to all my meetings, worked out. So that's a good thing. And when you have a reaction too, that's likely a good thing. That means that your immune system's working, but not everybody will have any side effects at all too.
Now,
Have either you been vaccinated?
I haven't. I haven't. I was gonna ask, since you've been vaccinated, doctors, how long does it last? Is it forever? Is it every year? Is it gonna be like the flu shot now? That's a lot of questions that come in the barbershop a lot. And then after you get it, like, can you give it to somebody else again?
That's a great question, Greg. The first to answer, if you have to get the shot again, that's to be determined. But the good thing is that we know that all of the vaccines, well, Moderna and Pfizer have put out information that suggests at least 6 months. So they know that the people part of their trial that they have revisited and looked at their antibody levels to see if they're still protected are still protected at 6 months. And they're probably going to do the exact same thing at 8, 10, and 12 months. So we don't really know for now, but we do know at least 6 months. And the positive thing about that is that we already get the flu vaccine every year. And why is that positive? We already have an infrastructure of giving vaccines annually. So that means that we'll be much more prepared to fight COVID and continue to manage the situation. I'll pass it to Dr. Arnold.
Before we go to Dr. Arnold, I just wanted to ask Ray to give his opportunity to share his vaccination experience. Has he had it or has not had it?
I have. I'm at my 2-week point past the second shot of Pfizer. My experiences of taking it, I kind of refer back to my, military career. I mean, I've been vaccinated so much already. I just thought mentally, here's another one that I should be taking. Anthrax, smallpox. I mean, we can go through the list. So it's a lot. and all of those weren't volunteers. Like those are all voluntold. I had to take them. But, you know, even this one that we just had, no, I didn't have any soreness. It was truly just the soreness of a needle going in your arm, you know, for the days after. I might forget and let you on my left shoulder and like, oh yeah, that's right, I had the shot. Let me roll back over because it's a little tender. But honestly, I didn't have anything. My experiences was well. And kudos to the National Guard that was associated with the Winnebago County. They did an excellent job. You know, they got people in, they got them out, they were professional. And, you know, just seeing them stand guard during this time, you know, my hearts go out to those troops that are serving. You know, I thank them continuously because, you know, that was a key resource that was needed during a time that of uncertainty. And, you know, it's just great to be able to fall back on those troops when, you know, they're here. But yeah, that's how it is. I didn't have any issues. It was, and I do recommend it to each person within reason, you know, of them to do their own due diligence. You know, I'm not forcing it upon anyone. I'm just wanting them to find the resource that best suits them.
So, doctors, barbers, are there any ways we can work together to help with the information, getting out the information for this vaccine and COVID-19?
Like how me and Ray, we already know, just we are directly right hands-on. We see so many people on the just day-to-day basis, whether it's through instruction, teaching students, letting them know to be smart and be safe coming into the barber field. I feel like with the barber field, we always have been ahead of the curve on being sanitary. You know what I mean? Like we already were always being sanitary. So they've came in with the extra sanitation. You know what I mean? It's almost like just letting the world back know, like we all need to be sanitary. But that's just one of the bigger things just going on, just knowing that we can do our part, teaching other people to be more sanitary and not forcing the vaccine on you, but just seeing where you're going with it. And if you're not looking to get it, the precautions you should take going forward.
Greg has a great point. It's the, you know, it's the education behind it. You hit it, you were perfect on it. You know, if we can continue, you know, strengthening how important, you know, being licensed in this career field and continuing to, you know, stay in your education of training of, you know, from that's recommended, or even required. It's what we can do as barbers and stylists is to truly just stay up on our current regulations and bridging that gap with you know, licensed health professionals. These type of discussions. You know, I can't tell you how many bad ideas I probably gave to some of my clients because I didn't know like probably the true meanings behind it. I mean, you know, sometimes we're like, nah, don't do that. That's all just off of, you know, personal experiences. But the more that we, you know, relate to the medical field in these type of arenas, I think it helps, you know, having docs even come into the shops at times just to talk. I mean, I know you guys are saving the world. You really are, truly. But there's moments when I have other businesses come into my barbershop to promote their business because they know that barbershops and salons are the pillars of the community. It's, you know, we have aldermen that come in all the time to disseminate information. We have, you know, club promoters that come in to disseminate. People understand that like this is a way to get information out. And I appreciate, you know, this type of platform, you know, and it's continued type of working together is what we need.
So that's a perfect segue into my next question. Dr. Walker, you have a program called the Ambassador Program. Can you explain that to us and tell us more about that program?
Sure. Tim, if you could just share the PowerPoint that I had, I'm happy to kind of walk through it as well. And thanks, Dr. Arnold. We could put this in the slideshow view, slide view. Perfect. So I just want to start off with this first slide, just because this is a perfect example of how we can partner with barbershops throughout the state of Illinois. Just putting out information just like this, how we can fight coronavirus and go forward and move forward. And here we highlight the importance of getting vaccinated, the importance of wearing a mask, the importance of distancing, and the importance of washing your hands, the whole tool set. And just having that information available to remind your customers and people that frequent your shops can help encourage others to into action. We could go to the next one. And what you see on the left is just some general information, frequently asked questions about COVID-19. And on the right is some information regarding what sites you can visit with IDPH to help get more information on where to get vaccinated and what to do, and what are some of the things that are needed within your community if you want to address any questions within your community as well. You can go to the next slide. And this is the Ambassadors Program led by Juana Ballesteros. If you have any information or any questions, you can just email Juana to sign up with the Ambassadors Program. What it allows is your business, your place of residence to serve as an ambassador. You can get information about testing. You can get information about vaccination, and you can disseminate that to your community. Next slide, please. And this is just going further into detail about what that information is. So for example, if you're cutting hair and you're part of the Ambassadors Program, you can get some of the resources that we just saw earlier. And you can also get information about where people can go to get testing. And the importance of testing is so that we can have a good barometer about how sick different communities are and how fast we can act to help provide an intervention, as well as provide if we should partner to make sure that there's vaccines within your community. Next slide, please. And this barcode, this Q code, you can put your iPhone or Verizon phone up to the screen and you can sign up with the Ambassadors Program. It'll likely lead you to a link. I'll just give you 20 seconds to do that if you have your phone available and you want to sign up right now. Next slide. And if you don't sign up, you can just reach directly out to Juana.Ballesteros, BALLESTEROS @illinois.gov to sign up. And after this event, we'll reach out to you to see if you want more pointed information, more pointed resources, more pointed training from a public health official or a physician about this information, so that we can partner together to help fight this virus. We can go back to the awesome. But that's essentially the ways that we can partner with IDPH. We can partner with barbershops throughout the state. And there's also other programs that are happening with as well. So we want to be able to use that partnership in the name of science, because you guys have been shown to be incredible partners in terms of public health messaging and advocate for your communities and ensure that individuals that may be left behind are getting vaccinated, or people that may be apprehensive are getting vaccinated.
Dr. Walker, was there anything else that we wanted to add to the program?
No, I think we can just end with some final comments from our panelists, as well as address any questions that we may not have gotten to.
I was gonna say, somebody put in the chat that people tend to believe stuff that is written and look at the conversation sometimes just as an opinion. I, a person, do not want to be an ambassador, but want to share the information. What can they do?
Greg, they could do exactly what we just mentioned. They can sign up with our ambassadors program. It's all been vetted by public health specialists as well as physicians. So they can use that information and know that it's vetted and disseminate that into their community. And then you guys also mentioned earlier, you guys have a lot of visitors that come to your barbershops, partnering with some local health professionals that are doing just this work to help discuss some of the information around COVID and how we can help keep our communities healthy and restore our communities to make sure that we're safe and can open up and get back to the normalcy that we remember before COVID.
So, Dr. Arnold, what are 3 basic strategies that you recommend for organizations to serve the African American communities?
Yeah, so I think one of the ways to first serve is that you have to become connected. So it's actually learning what's out there, what the resources are. And one of the ways is to go to the Illinois Department of Public Health website. So the website actually has, within the Illinois Department of Public Health, there are a lot of different divisions. And so you have the Office of Minority Health, you have the Office of Men's Health, which Dr. Walker runs. So get connected to those 2 things so you can have an idea of what they're looking for, because they ask organizations, and they also have grants available as well, you know, for people to implement programs within the communities. So I would look to those websites for some guidance about, you know, how to get connected and contact people. The other thing I would do is, you know, is just really just going through and educating yourself on the topic you want to speak about. Just like when you were becoming a professional barber, right? You have to get a license. You just can't go out there and say, I'm gonna cut someone's hair. I offered to do that for my wife a few times and she said, no, thank you. you are not qualified to cut my hair. so she goes out, you know, to the beauty salon. So I don't get in that. So one of the things is just you already have a professional license. So treat the things that you're going to be telling people as though it was part of the same curriculum you had to go through and be tested on to become a professional barber. So, you know, that's another way is, you know, making sure that what you're saying is consistent with what's out there. Even people who are in the medical field, some people don't want to get vaccinated, right? And when we look at those people, we say, you know, there's one saying that I have is that I tell students is, you know, remember, science never asks for you to believe in it, but it's incredibly unforgiving if you do not. You can walk to the edge of a cliff and take a step, and on the way down, gravity never asks you, do you believe in me? It's like when by the time you get to the bottom of that cliff, you
know it. You know it.
So science never asks you for that. So it's going around and it's affecting us, right? So, and then also watching out for another thing is getting up to date on what's going on in social media, because there's a storm of stuff going on in social media. Misinformation, and misinformation is when you don't know. Disinformation is when you're doing harm and you know you're doing harm, right? And there's fraud, there's waste, there's abuse on the internet. People are you know, trying to sell phony cures, and you know, don't worry about this, you know, take some of this beetle juice and that will get you through, you know. You don't need it. It's like, no, I don't think I want to drink that. Right. So there's all kinds of stuff that's out there you have to be careful about. And so when you do, you know, for one example, I was mentioning the Tuskegee study, and there was something that was out there on the internet where this person had 17,600 followers. And what they said was, they said those men, you know, down for Tuskegee, the study, they were injected. They said this was an experiment. They were injected with syphilis, and they followed them from 1932 to 1972, and they never treated them. They never gave them anything. So you still want to take that coronavirus vaccine? And there was someone who was actually medically trained who responded and said, I learned about that in, you know, medical training. That was horrible what they did to those men. And then a third person came on and said, that's why I'm not going to get vaccinated, and that's why I'm never going to even get tested, right? And the problem with it is that they never injected anyone with anything. What they did was they diagnosed them as having syphilis and never gave them penicillin to treat them. So if you don't get vaccinated, you're putting yourself in the same position as those men in the Tuskegee study, in that there's something that is medically available to prevent you from getting seriously ill or dying, right? Just like the penicillin, they were denied. So we have to get the record straight, right? We have to get
First time I-
and the facts straight.
Wow, I did not know it that way. That type of information, you know, on the other side of what the optics are. Wow, that's amazing. I mean, that's deep right there. I'm using that. I'm writing that down right now. I'm using that.
Always as how we all know. I mean, how we always thought like, oh, they just gave everybody syphilis. That's crazy just to hear that for the first time ever.
Yeah, and they followed them for 40 years, and in 1964, they refused to give them penicillin, and so they did not treat them, and they just said, "Oh, you're going to keep the disease, and we're going to follow you." And not until 1972, and that's when Dr. Walker is very well versed in in studies and and the scientific side of things, and they had the institutional review board, and they say, "You're not going to do this to people." This is something that is unethical, is immoral, and why are you doing something? So now we have such strong study guidelines, and that's why even this vaccine, they are looking at you have every scientist in this world looking at that vaccine that is involved with vaccine production, right? And they are not letting anything go through that they think is crazy, right? That's not going to work. Actually, there were a few companies already that would turn down manufacturing rights. They did not get an emergency use authorization. It said, because your data, you're off the chart here right now, and we don't know where you're going with this stuff. So so the other ones that we have, we know that they are. The safety profile is all bearing itself out with all the millions of people who are being vaccinated. And the one thing I wanted to mention is that, more white people are getting vaccinated than African Americans, percentage-wise. And we are falling behind in the number of people who are becoming vaccinated, right? We represent about about 14% of the population in Illinois, and we only have a vaccination rate of about 8%, right? Of the total people who are being vaccinated, we should have 16%, right? Of all the people who are vaccinated, we should have an equivalent amount to where we are if everyone's being treated equally. So whites are actually about 72%, but they only represent 67% of the population. So we have got to wake up and realize this thing is taking people out. It's taking out attorneys. It's taking out physicians and nurses. It's taking out business owners. And like you said, your business as a barber, you are a essential hub in the community, and we can't go on without you, right? So we've got to be protecting the people, the crossing guard, right? The person who is giving out lunch cafeteria food, or who's driving the bus. We cannot afford to lose anyone else in our community. And I'll say one quick thing and pass it back over. But I look back and I asked myself a question. I said, what would have happened in December 2019 if we had had this vaccine already here, right? What would have happened? And they had, President Biden and Kamala Harris were on the mall, looking at the reflection pool with these luminaries, the bags that they were lit up, and that you had the Washington Monument, and they had a thing. They said over 502,000 people have died already, and that was as of this February. And I asked myself the question: what if those people had been vaccinated? 497,600 of them would still be alive today. The other ones, 51,000, about 51,400, those people would have gotten mild to moderate illness and still be alive. All 502,000 would have survived.
Also just want to add on, because Dr. Arnold brings up such a very important point. When we talk about the Black community and why we're so passionate about this partnership, as well as passionate about disseminating this information. There was a recent JAMA article that came out and said 40,000 parents were lost. And a high proportion of those deaths were due to Black and Brown families. And that means there are kids who have lost that opportunity to have a loved one, to have a parent, to be a part of their life. So when we talk about vaccination and vaccines, that's the opportunity that we can see that could help allow children to have their childhood with all of their parents, all of their loved ones part of them. The other point is that Black people as a whole have lost a total of 3 years off their lives due to COVID-19. And if we are going to stop that decline, we have to make sure that our communities are vaccinated. And so thank you guys for being part of this. Thank you for partnering with us today. We're looking forward to being able to continue this partnership. And again, just want to highlight the ambassadors program to reach out to Juana Ballesteros or sign up online to get information regarding this, as well as potential to partner in the future.
Before we close out, I just like to say, speaking with getting involved with, knowing what's going on with social media, and there's a bunch of different programs on social media and the internet. One of my colleagues, she created a website with her own name, Angela Fellers, that she keeps track of Walgreens, CVS, and other outlets to help people find where they can get those vaccines. Is angelafellers.com. And the other point was, I want to go back to, being a barber. As you may know, I'm a funeral director in my community, and the beginnings of embalmers and funeral directors also begin or have a tie to the barbershop. Because as you know, in your training, in your history, you were known as the bloodletters, and so I also have a connection to the barbershop. Just because of the process of embalming and what that connect and how that connects to the removal of blood from the body. And I tell people in my business, I average 150 cases a year of people dying. 2020, we did 240 cases. 40 of them were related to COVID deaths. Some of them were husband and wife, some of them were sister and brother. But I tell people we still had an increase because of the stress that this pandemic, the environment of the pandemic puts on people. We had an increase in domestic violence, we had an increase in suicides, had an increase in heart attacks. Not everybody during the pandemic is going to die from the actual virus, but the stress of being in this environment is something that we also have to look at, and it's detrimental even to our older people, younger people, people with underlying conditions. That's why it's important to take even if you're healthy. I know that with the virus, I ain't gonna say I know, but I assume that the virus coming to me as a young man with very few underlying conditions, if I get the virus, I may be healthy. But my family, I have young children. My in-laws are older with great underlying conditions. My parents are older with great underlying conditions. I have coworkers that I work with every day with underlying conditions. So if I contract a virus and the virus is in my system and I'm fine, I still spread that virus to them, even though I may be fine and they will die from it. So it was important for me to get the vaccine just so I know I could keep my family safe. and I could keep the other people around me safe. So, you know, I had reservations on getting the vaccine, but I knew it would help keep my family safe and keep everybody else safe around me. I also knew that as a county board member and public official, I needed to get this vaccine to help get the economy back together. That's the other thing that we need to talk about is trying to move forward with getting our economy back together. There's so many people out of work. You know, I depend on people to be able to have a job so they could pay me, as well as the barbers depend on people to have a job so they could pay them. And so if there are so many jobs shut down, people are not coming to us because they have no means to pay us. And so in order to get this economy back together, everybody has to do their part, you know, wash their hands, wear a mask to help lower the numbers so we can open up back to everybody. And so that was my take on getting the virus. And I always tell people, you know, I like to drink. I don't drink a lot. I don't get drunk, but I like alcohol. I know for a fact alcohol is a poison. So I'm putting poison in my body voluntarily. And, you know, if I could drink alcohol, I can certainly get a vaccine that's going to help improve my life, improve someone else's life, improve someone's life, you know, with their family, just because they could be with them again. And that was my closing remarks. And I thank everybody for participating. And I certainly want to give our barbers the opportunity to have a closing remark if they choose so.
Oh yeah, that's crazy you say that, Tim, what you were just touched on just a second ago that we had a conversation before about, but one of my clients that I have, he had where it wasn't COVID that directly affected him, but his mom, it sent her to the hospital numerous times just with the fear of thinking she had it. And she was putting herself at such a high rate of stress that you're almost going to give yourself a heart attack or a condition or something. And a lot of concern about the COVID because, you know, like we were saying, a lot of people may not want to get the vaccine, but early on when COVID came out and it was like the media pushed the fear almost of it. It's almost like you put the fear without information. So it was just like fear. So it was like you're seeing some people, like you said, they probably were passing away and it may not have been COVID, but you got so high levels of stress because you really don't know what's going on. So I saw that with a lot of clients, just a lot of misinformation or no information and you just scared. So just us having this, how Mr. Damon just said that about the Tuskegee, I never knew that. Like that just almost took me off the fence to, oh man, let me go on here and sign up to get me a vaccine. You know what I mean? Like, because sometimes we don't know and we'll just stay on the back. Like we'll just stay on the back and you'll end up being the person that, dang, I should have got the vaccine because I'm gone. I know I've lost a family member during this time of COVID. They may have gotten the COVID, but it actually may not have been COVID while they passed in the end. You know what I mean? So it's real big. And I'm glad to be a part of this panel today and being able to do this just to learn even for my own self.
Yeah, definitely. You know, this type of communication, like Greg, we gotta get it to the up and coming barbers, you know, like just seeing, you know, us gentlemen here conversate about something that's so wide reaching, you know, what we're doing here, how far it reaches is going to be extremely impactful. And we just have to continue on passing this torch as far as possible, you know, letting young men, young Black men, women to see that, you know, we can come together to talk about such a hot subject in any circle. And, you know, this is just powerful, just being able to come together, you know. So gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. It's an honor, and I appreciate this opportunity, and I look forward to working with you guys in the future on any subjects that, you know, I can assist in. and all men's health, you know, and health in general. So I look forward to passing out some information about this ambassador program to my other businesses to see about getting our people involved in this, because this is a step in the right direction. I truly believe.
No, this is Dr. Arnold, but one question I have is this. You know, I put the information that Dr. Walker had mentioned into the chat box, you know, for the telephone numbers to call and all that, and how to get in contact with WANA. But I was wondering, you know, is this something that you feel, because, you know, both of you have gone through your training for becoming barbers, and Ray, you said you were doing this teaching in school, you know, for the Barber Academy. Is this a course that people need to see, you know, in barber school? And, you know, Dr. Walker is the head of men's health. Not that I'm putting something else on his plate to do.
Right.
that might be something to develop something, you know, that is a basic, you know, overview of, you know, high blood pressure and diabetes, and, you know, because these things have ravaged us before COVID, right? We've been dying unnecessarily from those diseases for a long time. And, but to, you know, talk about vaccinations and that kind of thing too.
Yeah, you know,
go ahead, Ray.
Colonel, just to touch on that, you know, a couple years ago, the state of Illinois just mandated for our career field to take domestic violence like training, just to be able to recognize signs. That wasn't in our curriculum. Of course, in the books, it talks about you know, listening and some soft skills of professional development and those special skills, but there's nothing that gives a blueprint or this type of area of training. It has to be developed and put out there, just as if the domestic violence one was. You know, now that we have, you know, this type of talk and COVID, some type of continuing education could be positive, could be a positive force in the future. It's just a matter of continuing these talks on to see where we can do that. But I definitely agree that the more training we put into our career field of areas where we don't know and we don't focus on, it helps out in all other aspects.
And just to add, Dr. Arnold, you hit the nail. You hit it directly on the nail. Once people sign up with WANA through her ambassadors program, we will be able to look at who has signed up, who has that opportunity to disseminate information, and follow up to talk directly about some high yield information around COVID, some high yield information around where the vaccination sites are, as well as where the testing sites are. And then also learn from our barber leaders about what are some of that information and what are the questions that they're fielding on a day-to-day basis that we learn from Brother Greg and Brother Ray. So thanks again for setting the stage for that. And thank you guys for all the work that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. And this will conclude our webinar today. And I'd like to thank you all for your participation, this wonderful conversation. And I hope you all continue to have great blessings in your businesses and your many endeavors. And as master builders always say, we're looking to make good men great. And thank you for being a part of that. Thank you all. Have a great
Yeah,
day.
you know, I'm just getting warmed up. I felt like I was in that barber chair, just relaxed. So, you know, we got to get us back there sometime. Call us back.
So, you know, maybe when all this COVID subsides a little bit, everybody's vaccinated, we could do this same talk from a barber shop.
In the shop. There you go. I like it, Greg. We can switch. Absolutely. I love it.
Like
Just like LeBron.
Yeah.
Have a great one, everybody.
All right.
Take care, guys.